first step is customize the welcome intent just to add a message, right? Say, hello, tell me your favorite color, right? Just make it similar to the first episode we had. The idea we should, for example, customize the welcome intent and change the phrase, the welcome, the response to something like, for example,
what is your favorite
color? I can remove this, right? And add a new response like, what's your favorite color? For now, let's use just one. But again, it's just because we already went through the process of creating an action. So now hit save. I think it's good, right? But to handle the user answer, we need another intent. So Taylor going to create a new intent. My job is easier today, right? I'm just saying him to do something, but because the idea is to go straight forward to the backend fulfillment development. So favorite color, great. Add some certain phrase like my favorite color is orange, purple, etc. Perfect. So now we need to enable the fulfillment, right? So let's go to fulfillment, enable fulfillment. Perfect. Save. But if we go to the fulfillment section, for example, we don't have the webhook yet, right?
Right. So we need to set that up.
Okay. So let's use the Java library.
Right.
How is the process? For example, if I'm starting with development, how is the process? For example, I'm just here and I want to start right now creating this project.
Right. So my first recommendation would be to download an IDE. I have an IDE pre-installed, INTELLIJ.
Okay.
Once you have your text editor, you can go to the actions on Google GitHub.
Okay.
And view all of our open source projects. There you will find a boilerplate project for the Java client library. So
this is very cool, right? Because we already created some classes and code, so you can start your project without, for example, it's not from scratch. We already created some structure compatible with Google App Engine, and also we created an AWS handler. But in this case, we're going to delete this handler because we only need the Google App Engine handler, right?
Right.
So you can download here or through a command line, whatever you prefer, right?
Right. So if you visit the GitHub, you can clone clone the project.
Okay.
Let's see.
Terminal.
The terminal. I'm going to make a directory called Java
very nice terminal.
Library demo.
Okay.
Then we can clone the project.
Perfect. So what's happening now? If you're not familiar with this, the GitHub, we are downloading the code from the GitHub. This code was created by Taylor and the rest of the team, so it helped you a lot. So what's the structure here, Taylor?
So once you check out the code, you can actually open it in your text editor.
Okay.
It's probably easier to view
Let's go.
The structure of the code there.
How they can open this there.
Yeah, so if you open INTELLIJ, you can import the project by clicking the Import Project button and navigating to
where you download your clone.
The clone directory, and selecting the build.gradle file.
Oh yes, in this case we are using Gradle, so it's easier to do all the build tasks, right?
Right.
But if you are using Maven, you also can use your own architecture, so no worry. But in this case, already it's ready. You can just open the IntelliJ and import.
Right.
And it's very cool because it's kind of already the dependencies, right? The wrappers there, right?
Right. So Gradle will handle all of the dependencies that the project uses. Nice. It'll compile your project, build all the class files, and then So if you don't have Gradle installed on your machine, you can actually use the Gradle wrapper that's combined or packaged with IntelliJ.
Nice. Yeah, this is a good point. For example, if you are new to the Gradle world or something like that and don't have this on your machine, you can also start from our code that we always wrap the compatible version with the code. So it's ready?
Yeah, so as soon as you import the project, you'll see that everything builds.
Okay. And can you comment about the structure here, about what classes we have here and how they're organized?
Yeah, sure. So if you look at the source code and you go to the main folder, you'll see a couple classes.
Okay.
There's one of the classes is Action Servlet. This is a entry point into your backend. So when you deploy your project or your fulfillment code, any requests and responses will go through this class, this servlet class.
Nice. And this class, for example, the developers, they don't need to customize this class, right? Because already doing all the work for them, right?
Right. So the boilerplate, we provide 2 different entry points. We provide one that's just a basic servlet, which is really common in Java.
Okay.
And then we also provide one for AWS Lambda.
Okay.
Because the request and response that come in is a tad different, you have to handle them differently.
Okay. So you can remove, for example, the AWS Render in this case, right? So
so we can
delete.
Since we're not using AWS, we can completely delete this class.
Nice. But now I see another class here. So where should I, for example, because on the Node.js client library, I have to create a function, and then I have a function per intent, right?
Right.
And then one of the methodologies, but you have one method per intent. We have something similar for the Java client library.
Yeah. So if you look at the second class that we have here, we have this My Actions app class.
Okay.
This is equivalent to the app instance in the Node.js client library.
Nice. Okay.
So
it's where the magic happens, right?
Yeah, this is where all the magic happens. So this is where you define any code for handling any of your intents. And depending on if you're using Dialogflow or Actions SDK, you can instead of using the constructor like you would in Node.js of instantiating an instance of Dialogflow app or Actions SDK app, you extend the classes Dialogflow app or Actions SDK app.
Cool. So we have a bunch of boilerplate also, like welcome, but we are not using the fulfillment to reply the welcome intent, right? We are handling all from Dialogflow. In this case, we can, for example, remove this, right? I'm right?
Yeah. So we created a project on our own in Dialogflow. So we can remove any intent handlers here. We can actually reuse this default welcome intent one.
Yeah,
because it's just
better.
a basic
exactly.
welcome intent.
Remember to check the intent name, right? So have the same name on the notation.
Right. So the annotation should match the intent name that was defined in Dialogflow. So if we go back to our project in Dialogflow, we'll see that our default welcome intent is named default welcome intent. And looking back at our code, we have the default welcome intent annotation for this block of code.
Yeah, but in this case, we won't use this one. We just reuse the code, right? And the name must match the favorite color, right?
Right. So because our default welcome intent doesn't reach out to fulfillment, we do not need this one.
Great.
We can go ahead and go to our favorite color intent and change it to handle this intent instead.
Okay, let's go.
So to do that, we can change the annotation to be favorite color.
Okay. And how do I know the color that user said, right? Because on Node.js, for example, I have the parameter after the conversation object. And here we are sending also parameter, right? Can you go back? Yeah, so you go the action parameters, we have the color.
Right.
How we handle this parameter in the Java client library?
So this parameter is passed into your Java backend. And to actually access these parameters, you would use a get parameter method on the request. So
I don't need, for example, if I have a bunch of parameters, I don't need to keep changing the method signature. For example, it allows me maybe if I'm sending new parameters, it won't break my code, for example, right? So it's like, okay, I'm adding these parameters and I'm going to use maybe in another moment and it won't break the code, right? So I can keep using the same.
Yeah.
Cool. So show us all the AI stuff that you do on the color string and return the lucky number.
Okay, sure. Yeah. So just looking at the method body of this, let me actually delete this.
Okay.
So first, when you create an intent handler, you'll need a response builder to build your response.
Okay.
So we declare that. Next, we'll want to grab the color that the user said.
Okay.
And to do that, you can actually do request.getParameter and then specify the name of the parameter that you want.
Okay.
So here we named it color.
Perfect.
So back in our code, we can say we want the color parameter.
Okay.
And all parameters come back in Java as objects, so you'll have to cast them to like a string.
The string,
in this case, it'll be a string.
Okay.
So we can say color is equal to string.
Nice. And now the machine learning.
And now the machine learning code.
Yeah.
So
is this calculated on the blockchain? I'm kidding.
So
I like these buzzwords. Maybe we can more viewers of these buzzwords.
Right. So we're going to use machine learning to generate a number.
Okay.
So to do that, we'll get the color
Dot.
and we'll get the length of the color. And then we'll actually multiply it by just a special number.
1, 2, 3. This is a very special number.
Very, very special.
Yeah.
And then once we have that number, we can actually return it to the user.
Okay. And I'll add what the assistant gonna say, right? So the R lucky number. Oh, nice.
Right. So for our response, we'll want to have some kind of prompt to the user. So in this case, we can say your lucky number is, and then the number that we got back.
Nice. Okay.
And then to add that to the response, we'll use our response builder.
Okay.
And then use the add method to add that string as a response. And then if we want to end the conversation in Java, the equivalent in Node is, so you have .close.
.close, yes.
In Java, to end the conversation, you can call .end conversation.
Okay.
On the end of your response builder.
Yeah, and this is a very interesting point that when we were planning the API, designing the API, I remember some discussions about the method names, and we had some people saying, hey, maybe the method name should match the Node.js.
Right.
And actually, we kind of think different because we are writing a very Java idiomatic library. So if you already use it to standard Java and Kotlin, and by the way, this library is developed in Kotlin, right? So the code is in Kotlin. So if you are used to the Java idiomatic, the syntax, you'll be very familiar with the APIs we created, right? So, but probably you see some difference if you are migrating from the Node.js to the Java. Maybe, like you said, instead of conv.close would be like end conversation. So, but yeah, good to frame it. I think it's important.
Yeah. So once you're ready to deploy, you can actually open the terminal in INTELLIJ.
Okay.
To do that, you can go to View, Tool Windows, Terminal.
Nice. And this is cool because you're already being your project class path and everything else, so you don't need to check if you're on the right path, right?
Right. So it automatically detects where the project path is. You don't have to have a separate terminal window open and have to CD into a directory. Cool. So when you're ready to deploy, you'll need to use the Cloud SDK tool that I mentioned earlier before.
Okay.
We have it pre-installed on this machine right now. And to use it, you can say gcloud init to initialize your project.
Great.
From there, it will ask you to initialize a project, and you can say create new configuration.
Okay.
And give it some kind of name. Number.
Okay.
And then log in with your email. So after you configure your project, you will want to actually deploy the application. You can do that from the terminal, or INTELLIJ also provides
shortcut,
it provides a shortcut in the Gradle tab.
Oh, nice.
So in the boilerplate that we provide, we have a bunch of Gradle tasks for...
And let me guess, one is to the Google App Engine task.
Yeah, so we have one for deploying to Google App Engine. So if you go to the Gradle tab in INTELLIJ...
This is why we hire you, guys. Yeah. Sure.
You can go to Tasks, App Engine, and then...
Deploy.
There's App Engine Deploy. So if you double-click that...
Oh, it's the moment, you know?
Yep, the dancing moment.
Let's see if it's working.
The deploy dance.
Let's see.
Right.
You only have the right to do the deploy dance if you deploy it. So, but let's see. It's working. It's now, what's happening is creating the instance, right? Because the Google App Engine is like a platform as a service, right? So it's uploading all the code, create a new instance. In general, the first time you run is kind of slowly than the other times, right?
Yeah, so initially it'll be a little slow. It'll take around a few seconds. And then once it's deployed, any follow-up deployments will be a lot quicker.
Okay, finish. It's deployed. We can check. Can you check the endpoint? This is the endpoint?
Yeah, so this is the endpoints. So our endpoint right now is only responding to post request. Actually, I think in the...
Let's see. With this URL, you can now fill the webhook.
Yeah, so using this URL, we can actually set up our fulfillments by providing a dialog flow.
Great. So, nice. So we can save here. But there's one just before we do deploy the action there and do the test with our incredible Google Home Hub, we must configure at least the name of the action, right? Because I think we are using My Test App, right? Something's very common. People, when they are doing the first project, they are doing like with My Test App. You can go in the Actions Google Console, right? And just remember on the for invocation, let's change to Java lucky number just to make sure that we are invoking the right action. So people say we are not cheating here. No, we're not using a pre we made the homework and have some working code before. But it's okay. Now it's time to integrate, deploy to the Google Hub to test, right? Wow, it's deployed. As you can see in your screen, we are seeing the simulator, but we won't test on the simulator. Let's test on the Home Hub, and I will judge if you are allowed to do our deploy dance when it work. So, hey Google, talk to Java lucky number.
Okay, let's get the test version of Java lucky number.
Hey, what's your favorite color?
Orange.
Your lucky number is 738.
Ooh, it's working. Nice. Yeah.